this unit, we're going to be discussing special events for women. When you consider planning a special event, first you want to develop the ministry purpose for your event. Is your event specifically designed to reach women for Christ? Do you want this event to help women grow in their faith and become more spiritually mature? Are you wanting to involve women in service through opportunities to use their gifts and talents? And does this ministry support and undergird the overall vision of your church? Again, you want to consider, what is your purpose? Why do you believe that this special event needs to happen? Why is God calling you to have this special event at your church? So some things you want to consider in planning special event is you want to provide opportunities for non-churched women to attend. Events are a great way to introduce women to your church, to introduce women to the gospel. And then you want to be sure that you announce it in so many different ways. We'll be talking in another unit more about publicity, but you want to be sure that you develop a plan for how you are going to get the word out about your event. And then you want to challenge members to get out of their comfort zone, to maybe be involved in an aspect of planning that they normally would not be involved in, or to invite people that they might normally would not think about inviting. So encourage them to get out of their comfort zone. And then, of course, everything you do, please undergird that with prayer. Let the Holy Spirit lead you in planning your event. Now, there are all different types of special events that we can offer for women in our ministry. Two specific types of events are conferences and retreats. With a conference, it's typically a 1, 2, or 3-day event that happens during the day, and it's just a day event. People do not spend the night or anything like that. Typically, it'd be at your church or at another location in your community. So conferencing provides opportunities typically primarily for spiritual growth. It's usually for the purpose of helping women grow deeper and further in their relationship with Christ, and of course then to get to know other ladies in your church as well. A retreat, however, is typically a 1 or 2 day event where is an overnight event at a specific location. And these events tend to be primarily for the purpose of helping women bond together in addition to growing spiritually. And whether or not you would want to offer a conference or a retreat will really depend on your setting and your context and what ladies need in your church. Some women really desire to have that retreat and that focused time away, and then others think, well, I really just can't give that kind of time, too busy, but I could give time for a conference, for a day-long event or an evening event, something like that. So it really just depends on the women in your setting and your context, and you would have to really talk to them about that and assess the needs in your setting. Well, as you think about planning your special event, moving toward the event, you want to first determine the need, which again goes back to the purpose for your event, and you want to determine the date. When will this event be held? You want to consider what your budget would be. You need to determine whether or not you will sell tickets for this event, or if the event could be undergirded by your church budget. So determine the budget that you will need for this event. You'll want to determine the theme for the event. What direction is God leading you in planning this event? And then you want to enlist your speakers and musicians. One word I would say about that is, if you are planning on enlisting a nationally known speaker, you want to be sure that you're planning your event well in advance, a good 6 months to a year in advance. However, if you are enlisting a local speaker who may not have to have that kind of, may have a little more flexibility in their schedule, you would still want to plan it at least 3 to 6 months in advance. So try to plan for these larger events as far in advance as possible, and of course enlist your musicians as well as far in advance as possible. And then you want to book your location. If you're considering an off-site location, you also want to determine whether or not you would have to sign a contract with that venue and what your church's policies are for entering into contracts. Of course, if it's at your church, you want to be sure that you get it on the church calendar so that there are not other conflicts with church events. And then as you move through the event, again, as I mentioned with leadership, you want to be sure that you just remain flexible, that you are able to go with the flow, that you have a backup plan in case of emergency, and you want to consider emergency planning for the event. Look at your church's policies for situations of emergency, just so you have an idea in the rare chance that you might have an emergency situation. So be sure that you have a backup plan, and just continue to pray throughout the entire event as God guides and leads you. Pray for those who will be involved in speaking and leading worship. Pray for those who will be attending the event, that God would do an amazing work in their lives. And then after you finish the event, you want to be sure that you send thank you notes or possibly even little thank you gifts for the people who are involved and who have helped you so much to pull together the event. And then you want to be sure you follow up on any decisions and prayer requests. Follow up is extremely, extremely important, because if we don't follow up, then it really just stops with the event. We need to be sure that we don't quench the spirit and that we continue to follow up with what God is doing in the lives of the women who attend this particular event. And then you may want to provide an evaluation opportunity, whether you hand out an evaluation sheet at the end of the event or send an email with a link to some type of online evaluation form. So you want to provide opportunities for women to share their thoughts about what went well, what they would have changed about the event, and that can help you as you begin to plan for future events. So consider these things in planning and preparation for your next event in women's ministry.